guys already know this is the main one tapping in all the way from H-Town, Houston, Texas. I'm here with my boy T.A.G.
T.A.G.
T.A.G sucks.
T.A.G, very nice, very evil.
T.A.G's gonna kill you.
That's T.A.G shit.
Whose house? T.A.G's house, baby.
The only thing we're gonna do is take over, baby.
Oh, it's true. It's damn true.
Free fall as I dive through the kaleidoscope in my mind. No rope up to climb. Gotta remind myself that I'm fine. Mama.
What it is, what it was, and what it do, Tag Nation. It's your boy, the disembodied voice of ScooterRay, and I'm here to bring you this hybrid edition of NXT.A.G. I'm here to talk about the Great American Bash, and I'm also here to talk about NXT TV. I'm gonna kind of weave it all into one big situation, but I'm gonna talk about Great American Bash, and from the match I talk about, if there's some fallout from it that happened on NXT, I'll bring it up. Then I'll also talk about the going-ons that happened on NXT, because we are moving towards the next situation, which is Heat Wave. That's going to happen in August. But some slight things to bring up before we really get into the nitty-gritty. Now, I know this was the first PLE on the CW, and I totally understand why they had it in the Performance Center. The issue I had with it was it felt like it was in the Performance Center. Like, I understand NXT is set up the way it's set up, but it just felt like a big NXT episode. It felt like nothing was new. It really just felt like a typical extended NXT episode. And once again, I know the next show is in late August with Heat Wave, and I'm pretty sure it's going to change because it's not going to be in the Performance Center. But it just felt like a supersized edition of NXT. And I'm glad that they gave it that 6 start time on my time zone, because y'all know, hey, when it's time for that news to cut on, it's gonna cut on. They be damned at what's going on NXT. It's gonna cut on. Now, Great American Bash did open up with Tony D defending his NXT championship against Naraku. Now, Tony D came in with a handicap. Naraku blinded Tony D with the fireball hiding in the contract, and from that, Tony D had pretty much half of his face bandage, and that was the issue. I know Naraku was attacking his eye and attacking his face, but keep hitting him from the blind side. Keep attacking his burns, because that's his face. But I understand back and forth. Tony D is the champion. It makes sense. It just, considering this is Naraku's like what, 3rd or 4th match on NXT, it didn't give him the best showing one would want, if that makes sense. To me, that of course to me. Ultimately, the match does end with them going back and forth. Tony hits that dead to rights, that high angle kind of spine buster he does. And that was the match. And I was like, oh, like it felt like it could have went on a few minutes longer. And it was like, cool. Now, like I said, the issue is that the way Naraku was portrayed, it was like, you would think he would be bigger and badder than what it was, especially because you blinded Tony D in one eye. But hey, now tonight on NXT, they had a match between Mason Rook, Jackson Drake. Of course, Jackson Drake had the rest of the Vanity Project out there with him. This match was made to believe that it was almost a number 1 contendership because of what happened last week and what happened today. Due to shenanigans and chicanery from the Vanity Project, Jackson Drake does get the dub. Now, it's unclear if he's truly the number one contender, but it was making it seem like, even on commentary, that if Jackson Drake is not the number one contender, then he's like second in line kind of energy. So there you go. And Tony D did come out and have some words and pretty much talking about, him retaining the title and all of these things. And pretty much, he's still on his, hey, bring them all, I'm still the champ, you know what I'm saying? I'm still Tony D, like I'm still in this thing. And when he was leaving, you see him come flying back out, and then you see Naraku with a chair, and Naraku pretty much was beating him down with the chair. Naraku missed Tony in the back, and then when he comes stumbling out, that's when Naraku was beating him with a chair, and then he hit the Darkness Abyss. I think that's what the name of the Entering the Abyss. He hit the Entering Abyss, which for the New Japan people out there, everything is evil. He hit the Entering Abyss onto the chair, and that's pretty much how he laid out Tony D. So I guess we'll see where that goes. I'm going to assume before Drake gets his title shot, maybe Tony D and Naraku run it back, or maybe Drake gets his title shot, then they run it back. I don't know, but that's where it seemed like it's gonna head. Now, I don't remember the exact match order, but the next match I will bring up. Let's go ahead and talk about that Women's Speed Championship. Ren Sinclair of the Ren QCC did defend her championship against Ariana Grace of Birthright. Now, if y'all are unfamiliar, the Speed Championships are 5-minute rounds. 5-minute matches, not 3 minutes. So this match did go to the final minute. Of course, Birthright was going to interfere because, Birthright. Ultimately, Ren hits the final wrench and makes Ariana tap for her to retain her Speed Championship, thwarting the idea that both Ariana and Lexis King would have been both men and women speed champion. And I would have been like, that would have been kind of cool for that to be a thing. But hey, it didn't happen. Another match that went down at Great American Bash, Shiloh Hill taking on Tristan Angels. Now, this rivalry has been brewing ever since damn near Tristan fully debuted in NXT. Like, it was maybe like a week or two after. And then the idea of one of them being Mr. NXT and this, that, and the third. Well, they had a contest. Shiloh won said contest. Tristan wasn't happy. He beat up Shiloh, took the sash, and assumed the identity of Mr. NXT. Well, last week, Shiloh was kind of like, nah. He was playing mind games, and that's what led to this match. This was not a bad match, but to be fair, this could have been on NXT TV regular. Like, this could have been on tonight's episode of NXT. I can see why they had it on Great American Bash because it was the blow off to their feud. But this could have technically been on NXT. Like, this wasn't the biggest, like, oh my God, this match needed to be here. Especially since it wasn't like a gimmick match or anything. Like, yeah, Shiloh got his sash back and everything, but yeah, Another match that went down, Brothers No More, Saquon Sugars taking on Dark State Dion Lennox. Now, a few weeks ago, Dark State kicked Saquon out after Dion and Saquon lost the tag team title match. Then Saquon systematically took out Cutler and Osiris to make it a one-on-one match. It was not a one-on-one match. Partway through the match, Cutler, arm in a sling, Osiris with a leg brace. They come out there pretty much cheering Dion on. Good back and forth between the two, but it did feel like something was like, I don't know. I don't know if it felt like something was off in this match or something just felt weird with this match. Like, I don't know if Saquon and Dion's chemistry isn't fully there or something, but it was something about this match that just felt off. Like, I don't know. To me, once again, this is all to me. It felt off, but the match did end with Saquon hitting the snow bunny splash and getting the 1-2-3. And as soon as he gets the dub, Cutler comes out the arm sling, Osiris comes out the leg brace, and then they beat up Saquon. They beat up Saquon. Even Dion takes his bat, hits Saquon a couple of times, and then it was like, it's cool that Saquon so-called got his revenge by getting the dub, but in the end, it didn't matter because he still got stomped out by Dark State. I guess moral victory counts, I guess, because what's the point of you winning if you're gonna still get stomped out? I'm just saying, like, he still got stomped out, and it was like, then you was just better off just like taking the L. But yeah, so we will see where that goes because Osiris and Cutler were on the show, but I'll talk about that more when I start running down regular NXT. Possibly my favorite to second favorite match of the night. Miles Bourne defended his North American Championship against Tavion Heights, and these boys were dueling. Once again, I always say wrestlers who are friends in real life tend to give the best matches, and it can't help but to think that Miles and Tavion must be friends in real life, or they just have pretty good chemistry, because it was a lot of snug looking hits. It was a lot of back and forth. There was many times it looked like Tavion was going to get the dub. There was many times that Miles Bourne was going to retain. Ultimately, it does end with Miles hitting actually a nice little Bourne again, and 1-2-3 retain. Now tonight, there was a little backstage segment. I didn't get a chance to fully hear what they were saying because it was Ren, Miles, and Tavion. And when Tavion came, Ren left. And then him and Tavion was talking, and the way Tavion was looking, he kind of had that look like, I just lost my best friend kind of look. Like he was looking very just sad. And it was like, it was almost kind of like, like Tavion, don't be sad kind of energy. So now they did announce that there will be, actually, no, they didn't announce that. That was for the Women's North American Championship, which I'm going to get to. Zarya taking on Tatum Paxley. Paxley wants her belt back. Zarya was like, nah. And this could possibly be my favorite match. If it's not the Tavion and Miles match, the Zarya and Tatum match, because these two ladies went out there. And I love the action that they gave in this match because there were many times it looked like Tatum can get that dub. Many times. And I love the aspect of they doing it because it showed that resilience Zarya had, and she was like on some, I'm not losing this belt on my I think it's her first defense. It was like, I'm not losing this belt on my first defense. Like, I waited this long to hold gold at NXT, and I'm not about to like lose it. I'm not about to like give this up. There was a segment where Zarya was talking to Izzy, and Izzy tonight, and Izzy was saying something to Zarya, but they couldn't she was kind of pretty much threatening Zarya for the championship, but Lizzie was in the locker room behind with her music so loud that they couldn't hear her. So in Zarya's case, next week on NXT, Lizzie, Izzy, Thea Hale, and Layla Diggs are competing in a fatal four-way, and the winner will get a shot at Zarya. And more on Tatum when I actually get to NXT. The main event for the Great American Bash, pretty good, pretty solid match. Lola Vice was defending the championship against Kendall Gray. Now, for those who have been in attendance, you know Kendall Gray has been the it girl for a while. Kendall Gray has been the girl that you can see that they was strapping the rocket to. And she was finally getting a one-on-one shot, main event slot. And these ladies delivered. They did. Ultimately, Kendall Gray does hit the gray zone. 1, 2, 3. Kendall Gray is your new NXT Women's Champion. Now, we didn't see Lola tonight on NXT, but the show does kick off with the newly crowned NXT champion in the ring. And she was pretty much kind of being open and honest with the crowd by saying, you know, things like this scare her, you know, speaking in front of people. You know, she was pretty much being human. And when she was trying to be human, Ren comes out with a cake for them to celebrate. Like, hey, you know, I retained my championship. You got the championship. And then Kalani crashes the party. And, you know, Kalani has been spouting pretty much the same rhetoric of, you know, her never getting a one-on-one opportunity. Her never, you know, all of these things. And during a backstage segment on Great American Bash, Tatum was pretty much sad that she didn't get her belt back. And Kalani was saying something to her, and then they got into a scuffle. When Kalani got pretty much to the ring, that is not her name. Tatum jumps off the barricade, bow, starts fighting Kalani. She does go to Stone and pretty much says, they both want a match with each other. So the main event is Tatum Paxley, Kalani Jordan. After the segment, it cuts to Vikingo beat up in the back by Keanu Carver. Vikingo was supposed to defend his championship against EK Prosper, but hey, it's not going to happen because, you know, Vikingo's beat up. We do have like I said, when Kalani asks Robert Stone, then Carver comes and then Stone is like, "What's up with you, dude? Like you attack Vikingo. Vikingo was supposed to defend his championship. Now that match is off. EK comes back there, and pretty much Carver and EK are going to run it back. They're going to run it back. And EK is pretty much like, I'm going to beat that ass again kind of energy. The next match we do get is for the NXT Tag Team Championships. You had Vanity. Yep, because I'm mixing his name. Vanity Project's Brad Baylor and Ricky Smokes defending against El Hijo, Dr. Wagner Jr., and his brother Galeno. Sometimes to be a fan of wrestling is knowing how much you have to really suspend your belief with certain things, because Galeno and Dr. Wagner Jr. are some big boys. I think they both around the 6'2" to 6'4". They some big boys. Literally, both of Vanity Projects is like one of them. And to know that you have to suspend the belief that Baylor and Smokes can really put up a fight against these two. You know what I'm saying? But of course, Micah and Drake were out there. Shenanigans, chicanery, Vanity Project retains. And it's like, fine. You know what I'm saying? It's like, okay, I get it. I get it. Once again, I get it. Then we get a segment where Birthright, OTM, Dark State, Romeo and Noam, and Sean Legacy were all in the back. And pretty much they all trying to get a tag team title opportunity. And Stone pretty much says, okay, this is what we gonna do. OTM versus Birthright versus Sean Legacy, Dorian Van Du versus Dark State in a fatal four-way, and winner gets the next shot at the Vanity Project. And Romeo was kind of like, Romeo and Noam was like, well, Romeo mainly was like, yo, what about us? And Stone was pretty much telling them, y'all pretty much got to just do a little bit better as a team. Like, you know, get some more wins in, get some more experience in, and, you know, we'll see what's up kind of energy. Now, there was a segment later where Sean Legacy was like, Dorian, where were you at? And he pretty much had to tell Dorian about the opportunity, and Dorian was like, oh, okay, cool, you know, bet kind of energy. So, I don't know. It kind of feels like, especially with that segment of Dorian looking at the Cullen, it kind of halfway feels like they may make Dorian join the Cullen, especially since Izzy and Nico took out Spears. So I wouldn't be surprised if Dorian eventually kind of betrays Legacy and he joins the Cullen. Like, I don't know. That's just something I could be, you know what I'm saying? I could be going out there. But hey, my thoughts, right? There's a segment where EK is getting hyped up by Tate Wilder, and he was pretty much like, hey, EK, you beat him before. Why don't you go out there and kind of do it again? And then there is a segment, Stone was back there talking, and he was talking to Kendall, and pretty much Kendall is like, you know, I'm champion now, opportunities, and Natty and the crew shows up. Now, Natty, of course, is in cahoots with Carmen Petrovic, your Evolve Women's Champion, Nikita Lyons, and Layla Diggs. And from the interaction, next week on her first title defense, Kendall Gray will be defending against the low-key legend, Natty. Then we get to the Jada Parker, Carmen Petrovic match. Now, of course, if y'all know, Jada Parker has been having beef with Natty. Even when she lost that match with Natty, her being flanked by Carmen and Nikita, she wasn't liking it. So pretty much Jada is like, I'm going to start going through y'all one by one till I get back to Natty. To fast forward, no. Jada does get the dub over Carmen. They did try to do some shenanigans and chicanery, but Jada prevailed. Hypnotic, deja vu, 1, 2, 3. And she was pretty much getting in Natty's face saying, hey, that's one of y'all. I'm doing what I need to do to get back to you. So pretty much be ready kind of energy. Then there was a Shiloh and Tatum segment, because, you know, they're all besties. And pretty much Tatum was like, you know, sad at the fact that she didn't regain her championship, but, you know, happy for Shiloh for getting the dub. And then when Tatum leaves to get ready for her match, Nico Vance pretty much comes back there, says some words to Shiloh. So I wouldn't be surprised that we're going to probably get a Shiloh and Nico Vance match. They didn't announce it for next week, but I feel like it's gonna happen sooner than later. And I did skip a match. EK did take on Keanu. Now, at the tailgate party for Great American Bash, Keanu gets upset and pretty much crashes it. And his thing with authority and all this stuff, he pushes one of the people who ends up falling into Hank. Hank falls off the stage through a table. And it was like, okay. So midway through the match, Tank comes out, throws Keanu through one of the light boards, and the ref is looking like, yo. And Tank is like, I don't know what you're talking about, big dog. Like, I don't know how he got there, but I've been right here. And from that damage, EK gets the dub again. So EK is technically 2-0 over Keanu Carver. And it was like, hey, cool. To get to that main event now, because I did weave in some of the other parts of NXT. That's why I said if it seems like I'm skipping a lot, it's because I already weaved it in. To get to our main event, actually, no, before the main event, Callie Armstrong does have a moment with Stone, and she's pretty much saying, what I got to do to get a title shot. Like, I've been around here being impressive, and then, Stone pretty much tells her, what I'm saying, you got to go make an impression. You got to go do what you need to do to get the title shot. And Callie was like, bet. So Kendall Gray is sitting ringside because it's kind of like with the whole Jackson Drake and Mason Rook thing. It's kind of led to believe that whoever wins between Tatum and Kalani could be number one contender. If not, they're knocking on the door. Like right after Natty gets her shot next week, that Kalani or Tatum is like right there. So midway through the match, when Paxley did something outside the ring to Kalani, we hearing like it was about to go to commercial break, and we hear a commotion. Callie Armstrong came out there and beat up on Kendall. So Kendall's pretty much done with commentary because she's out. So Paxley and Kalani, somewhere in the match, Kalani was attacking the ankle and foot of Tatum. I forgot what happened that damaged Tatum's foot, but Kalani was doing her best work to kind of attack the foot and ankle. Eventually, she went for Cemetery Drive, couldn't hit it. Eventually, it does lead to Kalani taking down Tatum, hitting her one-of-a-kind split-legged moonsault. 1, 2, 3. Kalani Jordan gets the dub. And as Kalani Jordan is standing on the ramp, we see a woman run up in the ring and beats up on Tatum. It is the debuting Nikki Blackheart. Now, Nikki Blackheart has been tearing it up on the indies. Of course, they don't address her by name, which made it even more awkward for Vic because he was like, Booker, we all know this woman. You all know this woman. And she's beating up on Tatum Paxley. And it was like, he couldn't say her name because I don't know if they necessarily got a name for Nikki Blackheart yet, or they saving it for possibly next week when I'm assuming she's going to officially debut and maybe she's going to say her name. But it was just funny that it was like, you would think in situations like this, the name would already be kind of picked out and ironed out. So that way Vic Joseph just won't be like, Booker, is that? Hey, we know who this is. Y'all should know who this is. And it's just like, that just made it awkward. And the beatdown was kind of slightly awkward, but the point is across, right? So Nikki Blackheart is officially there, and obviously Tatum Paxley is her first challenger. Tatum Paxley is the one that she's going after. So there you go. that was the fallout for Great American Bash and the Great American Bash. There wasn't too much follow-up other than Zarya having that little thing with Izzy and a little bit of Lizzie. That was pretty much it. Naraku still beating up on Tony D, but there was no follow-up with the whole Saquon and Dion. There was no follow-up with the Speed Championship other than Ren and Kendall kind of celebrating. You know, Lola wasn't there. So it kind of felt like we're just keeping it moving other than a few story beats. Like I said, mainly Naraku and Tony D, but for the most part, keep it rolling. August 30th, if I remember correctly, is when Heat Wave's supposed to be, and I know that they've been advertising it that it's going to be Heat Wave and their AAA show at the same. Like, I'm assuming Heat Wave first and the AAA show. Now they didn't mention if the AAA show was supposed to be televised, and by televised on WWE's YouTube. So gonna assume, but yeah. So yeah, otherwise, a pretty solid PLE, a pretty kind of okay. Because like I said, I know we're moving on, we're moving forward. We got to start booking for Heat Wave, kind of instant. So it was a little kind of like okay, I guess Kendall needs a new challenger. Eventually, Miles needs a challenger. Assuming if they run back Tony D and Naraku, maybe it could be Jackson Drake at some point, like I mentioned, thrown in there. But you got to keep the ball rolling, considering you got 2 months until your next PLE. And that's enough of me. Thank y'all for tuning in, and whether you love it or hate it, don't forget to rate it. Thumbs up, thumbs down. Leave all your comments, care, concerns, all in the comment section below. And if you haven't already, tag that subscribe button, tag that notification bell so you can be notified for all things TAG. Shout outs to Lil Bizzle, Jaeger Bombastic. Check out Juggernaut, aka the Juggernaut Show, and everything he has going on. Check out Kicking It with Leo and everything he has going on. And until next time, you beautiful people, love one another, take care of one another, love yourself, and take care of yourself. And until next time, you beautiful, beautiful people, don't forget to tag out. Peace.
Free fall as I die through the kaleidoscope in my mind. No rope up to climb. Gotta remind myself that I'm fine. Mama.